Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Was a Genius Like His Father, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
The people of the town had rejoiced on knowing that Gato was finally dead and Tazuna could continue building his bridge in peace. The team returned to Tazuna's house to rest. Everyone had been running on adrenaline the whole fight, so after the high was over, everyone was notably exhausted. Naruto had, much to Sasuke's extreme embarrassment, carried Sasuke back to Tazuna's house in bridal style, easily ignoring easy feeble attempts to let him go. When Sasuke had demanded Naruto to put him down, Naruto had smirked and in an all too innocent voice, said that Sasuke was too injured and as his teammate, it was Naruto's duty to help him. When Sasuke asked him why he didn't carry him like he did with Kakashi, Naruto smirked and replied, "I just felt like embarrassing you." What Sasuke didn't know was that after the carnage that Naruto performed, he needed some form of relief. Unfortunately for Sasuke, comic relief always worked well for Naruto. Naruto had kept his amusement to himself, lest Sasuke reverted to sticking senbon in his body from just cursing like a sailor. After that, things in the town were slowly getting back to normal. Naruto and Kakashi performed a raid at Gato's headquarters the night after the battle on the bridge, which they found out after asking for directions from the residents. They were surprised that many of them knew of the place, but avoided it due to fear. They had ransacked the entire place, looking for the money they knew that Gato kept. It was actually a good distraction for Naruto, and a very beneficial one at that. Flashback. Kakashi and Naruto entered the area of Gato, on full alert for any traps that lay ahead. They were here to find and confiscate all the money and valuables that Gato had earned over the years. Kakashi turned to Naruto. "Alright, Naruto, here is where we split. We probably don't have to worry about his thugs anymore because he brought them all to the bridge, but just in case there are, be on guard. You will be searching the main building, where the money is most likely kept. I will be scouring the warehouses. Since this country was not that rich to begin with, Gato would not be that interested in what it had to offer, instead letting his thugs have it and concentrating on his business. I will find the valuables and any evidence that can ensure that Gato's shipping company is shut down for good." All clear. Naruto gave a silent nod and as one, they dashed to complete their respective objectives. Naruto extended his senses and couldn't sense anyone, so he pushed on without hesitating. He blew the front door open with glee that he rarely felt. "Perhaps I should blow things up more often," he mused. He climbed the stairs, carefully checking for traps in places he suspected they would be, but found nothing on the first 2 of 3 floors. He was almost disappointed, almost. He missed it. It was only after he lifted his foot that he heard the subtle click. The door was locked and his danger sense rang, slowing down his perception. He turned around just in time to see almost 50 knives rushing towards him, leaving no space for him to escape. He was insulted. Fuyuten, Topper, Wind Style, Breakthrough, and all the knives were blown back. Scoffing, he shook his head and simply jumped on the ceiling. Who would think to lay traps on the ceiling? He easily walked upside down and jumped down in front of the first door he saw. He opened it and looked around, noting that it was Gato's study. Eyes sweeping around, there was nothing worth noting except for a small safe. There has to be something important in there, he thought as he tried to figure out a way to open it. As much as he would like to, blowing it open was not an option as he risked blowing up its contents as well. Eyes roaming around, looking for a clue, he spotted a piece of paper that was sticking out of the lamp. Curiosity growing, he plucked that piece of paper and had to keep himself from cackling like the devil. The safe combinations, laid bare, just like that. Hurriedly, he put in the combinations and watched the safe open. To his mild disappointment, there was only a sealed envelope inside. "Just what is he playing at?" he muttered. Turning it around, his eyes narrowed as his fingers brushed across something. Dried glue, he inspected as he tore it with little difficulty. He took out another piece of paper and read it, seeing a whole new set of numbers written in similar format in comparison to another piece of paper. He chuckled, "This guy is just asking to get robbed." Looking around for one last time, noting there wasn't any other safe, he got out of the study and walked down to the last room on the floor. He opened it and after seeing what was in there, he shook his head in disappointment. Leaving so many doors open, what the hell was he thinking? He asked himself as he walked close to the enormous vault door to put in the combinations. He felt almost bored as he put the combinations. The dwarf's memory must be terrible if he needs clues to remember his clues. He opened the door and barely kept his jaw from touching the ground. Piles of money taller than him stood in front of him. If Naruto had ever dreamed of drowning in piles of money, this would be defined as dreams turning into reality. Let's get to work then. All of this should be pretty useful in helping this country get back on its feet and then some, he decided as he prepared to make some shadow clones, but suddenly a thought struck him. A thought that made his mind start wheeling. From the way he was thinking, all the parties could benefit from this, including him. But first, he needed to know how much money this was. Within a moment, 20 shadow clones popped into existence. Start counting, he commanded. The clones divided themselves into groups of 5 and started counting by dividing the pile into smaller groups. It felt like an eternity and Naruto feared that Kakashi would suddenly bust through the door, but a call from one of the clones caught his attention as he was looking out on the grounds. Boss, we're done, he called out. Naruto turned back to see that the one large pile had been divided into 5 smaller groups. He mentally dispelled them and his eyes widened at how much the big pile amounted to. 100 million ryo, he thought, dumbfounded. What the hell was he planning to do with all this money? He asked himself. He pondered over that for a while, in the meantime sending a shadow clone to give Kakashi a report of what he found. Altered, of course. Finally, he came to a decision. Considering that this was a higher class mission, 1 million ryo could be taken from this and ease the burden off Tazuna. From the 99 million that remains, he would leave 90 million for the wave country, while the rest of it, he could take it for himself. Now that would normally make him feel disgusted with himself, taking the money that should go to the people of the wave country, unless he hadn't taken a look at Gato's records. Wave wasn't a rich country to begin with, so Gato didn't have much to siphon off, but what he did was no small figure. 30 million, collected over a number of years, was a very large amount, Naruto believed. That tremendously eased the burden of feeling guilty from his mind. He was giving back 3 times the original amount of money. With a firm nod to himself, took out 3 sealing scrolls. With the help of some clones, he divided the money into 3 parts, 1 for Konoha, 1 for Wave and 1 for himself. He sealed his part first and put it in his right hip pouch just in time as Kakashi entered the room. What ridiculous amount of money. He breathed. Naruto slipped into his normal and innocent mode, the mode he usually used to take the blame off himself after pranks. Keeping his voice level, he nodded and said, "Yeah, makes you want to think what you would do if you had this kind of money." They both looked at the pile of money. Naruto added in, "I already divided the pile up. 1 million for the cost of this mission, 90 million for this country to get back on its feet." He was counting on Kakashi assuming that there was 91 million ryo. Thankfully for him, Kakashi did just that. Kakashi nodded, not suspecting Naruto in the least. "Good, you got some sealing scrolls." After seeing him nod, he motioned, "Seal them separately and let's get back. I've found what I needed." Hurriedly sealing the other 2 parts, they exited the headquarters. Flashback end. After they came back, it all went downhill. People who had abandoned Tazuna had come back to build the bridge. Naruto and Kakashi had informed Tazuna about the money they had taken from Gato's headquarters. Kakashi told him that he didn't need to pay Konoha for the increased difficulty of the mission since they had already taken it from Gato, which Tazuna thanked Kakashi massively for. A massive celebration was held after the bridge was completed. The celebration lifted Naruto's spirits greatly, especially the part where Inari looked like he wasn't the host of a pity party anymore. Naruto was subjected to hero worship, a concept he is grossly unfamiliar with. Nevertheless, he took it in stride and indulged him as best as he could. Finally the day came when the team finally returned to Konoha. They were standing at the end of the bridge, facing a massive crowd. The Konoha shinobi graciously accepted the thanks given by all the people. They faced the family who had hosted them at last. Naruto could say without doubt that he had never seen the small family of 3 so happy before. Inari, it seemed, had finally stopped clinging onto Kaiser's memory and moved on. "I can't thank you guys enough for doing all of this for us. You have done such a great favor to us that I don't think we can ever repay you. Waving off the protests that came from Naruto, he brightened up even more and said, whenever Konoha needs some serious repairs, just call for me and I'll be there. He shook hands with Kakashi and bowed to Sasuke and Sakura, who bowed back out of respect. Turning to Naruto, he offered his hand out to shake. Naruto looked surprised for a moment, but recovered and gave a strong handshake to Tazuna with a genuine smile. We really are going to miss you, Naruto, he said. Much to his amusement, Naruto blushed a little before acknowledging the man's comment. Naruto looked down to see Inari struggling to hold back his tears. It was a clear failure though, as tears flew like a bursting dam. You told me not to cry, he said as he furiously wiped his tears. Naruto smiled softly as he knelt down. It doesn't apply when you are happy, all right. Don't hesitate to cry if you are happy, promise me. He offered a hand. Inari gave a watery smile but shook Naruto's hand with as much force as he could. Hi, Naruto Naichin. With that, he stood up and with a final goodbye, Kakashi steered his team back to Konoha. A man in the crowd shouted, what are we going to name this bridge? Everyone murmured similar things, eyes turning to Tazuna. Inari tugged Tazuna's pants. Gigi, let's name it after Naruto Naichin. A childlike suggestion from a small child, who wanted something that reminded him of the person he looked up to near him. But it clicked perfectly in Tazuna's mind. A full smile blossomed on Tazuna's face at his grandson's suggestion. You're right. Let's name it, the Great Naruto Bridge. He felt it was a great name, considering how Naruto played a big part in giving the town its hope back, and not to mention, he brightened up their family considerably. The ride back home was not what Naruto's teammates called pleasant. It was a very unfortunate way for them to discover what a speed freak Naruto was. Sasuke's jealousy reared its head when he saw his blonde teammate telling to Kakashi that they are going too slow and he was speeding up and he will meet them at the Konoha gates. That did not sit well with Sasuke. With that, Naruto had ran ahead of Kakashi, who knew exactly what Naruto was up to. He was trying to rile Sasuke up, and judging from the impressive scowl on Sasuke's face, it was working spectacularly. Kakashi was more than glad to sit back and watch the show. Sasuke increased his speed to catch up to Naruto, who would, unknown to Sasuke, smirk playfully and increased his speed so that he was just ahead of Sasuke. This continued until Sasuke was panting to just maintain his speed instead of outright falling behind his whole team. When they reached Konoha, no one was gladder than Sasuke, who was barely standing from all the exertion. Naruto, on the other hand, was barely panting. In fact, he seemed to be in deep thought. Sasuke mustered a glare as best as he could while panting heavily. You, daughter, a freak, he said. Naruto, for his credit, blinked once and turned to him with a confused look. Huh, did you say something? It proved too much for Sasuke, who collapsed. Sakura ran to him, worry written all over his face. Naruto scoffed, and turned to Kakashi, who giving him a strange look. It almost felt like reverence and pride. They grow so fast, he heard the man mutter while wiping a fake tear from his eye. Naruto rolled his eyes and spoke, are we going to the Hokage's office or not? XXXXXXX. The visit to the old man was interesting. When Kakashi first told him what had actually happened on the supposedly C-rank mission, he took a deep breath and calmly asked the genin to wait outside his office while he had a word with Kakashi. Naruto had figured out instantly what was going to happen and walked out, but not before giving a shit-eating grin to Kakashi, whose eye visibly twitched. He knew that the blonde knew he was going to get chewed out, and he was enjoying it. 15 minutes of chewing out later, they were called back into the office again, where the Hokage congratulated them on surviving the mission and then congratulated them individually on their performance. Though things got a little awkward because he had nothing to praise Sakura for. After telling them to collect their pay from the mission desk, he told them to leave, except for Naruto. Kakashi told Naruto to be at their training spot at 8 before walking out. Naruto, I want you to tell me the truth. Are you alright? His eyes were full of concern. Naruto smiled softly. Gigi, I'm fine. I've made my peace with what I did back on the bridge. If I hadn't did what I did, those thugs would have continued to terrorize the town. Also, giving the country a wave to rebuild itself was enough to lessen the burden on my mind, he explained. Hiruzen searched his face for any sign of lie, and exhaled in relief when he found none. When he had heard it the first time from Kakashi, he was so stupefied that the pipe had dropped from his mouth. Naruto had done exactly what his father had done in the Third Great Shinobi War. He could not stop himself from looking at the portrait of his now dead successor. Seeing Minato's cold expression, he was reminded of how Minato's mere presence sent enemies running from him. He shuddered as he once again compared the similarities between Minato and Naruto, imagining Naruto instead of Minato. Oh, Minato. If Naruto is even remotely similar to you, he will change the whole world. Of that I have no doubt. Looking back at Naruto, he could swear he had seen Minato standing behind his Naruto, having the same expression on his face. Waving his thoughts away, he said, "All right, Naruto. But if you have to talk about anything, you are welcome anytime," he added a smile. Naruto smiled and walked out of the office to the mission desk to collect his money first. The Chunin sitting there glared at him as he handed the money to Naruto. Naruto only gave a cool smile, further infuriating the man. After taking the scroll, he immediately used the shunshin to get to his apartment. He had a lot of things to do today. After getting refreshed, he sat down at his table and made a list of what he had to do today. First, put an order out for his Hiraishin kunai. They would be a bit different than those of his father. Second, secure the money he had taken from Gato. That was the easiest as it won't be going into the bank. Third, work out a deal to get his special kunai for free. He would have to work on that a bit. Nodding to himself, he set to work. The first and the last task he would be doing himself, while the middle one can be handled by his clone. He took out a paper and a brush and started sketching ideas for a new seal. The seal would be similar to the Nadime's Gojo Kibaku Fuda. If he wanted his third idea to work, he would have to offer the Higurashi weapons shop owner something interesting enough in return, as his order was quite tall. Ideas swam in his head as he worked out the original seal. Gojo Kibaku Fuda was a simple explosive tag with a small addition, a replication seal that would create an identical tag. The second Hokage had designed the chakra circuit such that it would first replicate the original tag before exploding. Then the other tag would create another tag before exploding as well, and so on. This would result in a chain of reactions that had the potential to be as powerful as a nuclear bomb. The best thing was only the first tag would be real, the rest would only be copies. He frowned a bit. Obviously, he could not give this exploding tags to Higurashi. The Nadime must have labeled this as a kinjutsu for a reason. He chewed on his bottom lip in thought as he tried to think of an alternative. He could modify a normal explosive tag to increase the power, but that was it. What else could he do? His eyes suddenly brightened up as he remembered his battle on the bridge. How he had used the kunai cage bunshin. It was similar to the tandem exploding tags, only it required a bit more chakra. I could simply replace the idea of exploding tags with kunai. He thought in satisfaction as he set to altering the seal to suit the kunai. Half an hour, he looked at the tag he had managed to create. It could be mistaken for an exploding tag from a distance, but a mistake was all it was. He created a clone, who took a kunai and wrapped the tag Naruto gave him. Going up to the roof, he faced the direction where the training fields were. Pushing half of his chakra, he threw the kunai. Normally, a hail of kunai suddenly appearing would be a cause of concern, but since it was the clone's kunai and as such, only a construct of chakra, it would dispel along with the clone. The clone watched with a self-satisfied smile as the kunai multiplied greatly. Seeing that the tag worked, he dispelled himself, which caused all the kunai to dispel. Gojo kunai Renden was a success. Naruto gave a grin of satisfaction as he went through the memories. The tag worked, which means he could now go to the weapons shop. Gathering the tags, he stood up and created a shadow clones, instructions already given. He then used the body flicker to get to the Higurashi weapons shop. Opening the door of the store, he blinked at the girl who was standing behind the counter. She wore a pink Chinese top with a green lower and had her hair tied in 2 buns. She smiled at him. "Hello, what do you need?" Naruto rose an eyebrow at her. It was obvious that she was a ninja from the headband, and a one that specialized in weapons judging from her heavily calloused hands. "I'm Uzumaki Naruto. You are?" he asked, politely. "Of course." Tenten replied. "Higurashi Tenten, nice to meet you." "Ah, so she was the daughter of the owner," he mused. "Tenten, I need 40 kunai, 30 shuriken and 7 explosive tags," he said. Tenten wrote down the order and said, "Okay, I'll be back soon." As she walked away, he called out, Tenten. She turned around, blinking at him. Yes. Naruto smiled and asked, could you also call your father? I have a special order I need to run by him. Tenten narrowed her eyes at him a bit, which he responded by giving a cool smile. Nonetheless, she went to fetch his order and her father. He looked around the shop a bit, blinking when the memories of his shadow clones came to him. He nodded when he saw where the money was hidden, a place that no one except him knew. That would only be used in case of emergency. He snapped back to awareness as he saw a large man coming from the back of the shop. He was heavily built, as expected of a weaponsmith. Even though his large stature added to the intimidation factor, he had a gentle smile on his face. Tenchi smiled as he saw who had requested his presence. No matter how many times he saw him, Naruto only looked more like his old friend Minato. Naruto, how can I help you today? Naruto smiled and nodded his greeting, Tenchi-san, I have a special order that only you can see. He gave an apologetic look to Tenten, who gave a playful pout, but smiled and went inside the shop. Taking out a piece of paper from the counter and a brush, he started sketching. Tenchi's eyes widened as he started to recognize the shape that was being formed. It was the famed kunai of the Yondaime, only a bit different. While Minato's kunai's side prongs were slightly curved in a semicircular shape, Naruto's kunai's side prongs were straight, if not a bit shorter than the original design. The middle prong was also a bit longer. Unusual, like his father's, but not impractical at all. Seeing where Naruto was going with this, he said, I can see that you want your design a bit different, but it can be done. Naruto then decided to put his proposal forward. I was also hoping to arrange a deal between us for a future discount on these kunai. A trade, if you will. Tenchi rose an eyebrow in interest. Oh. Naruto grinned and pulled out the additional tags that he created. I think you will be very interested in these. In 10 minutes, he explained how the Gojo kunai renden worked. At the end of his explanation, he put his offer on the table. I keep supplying you these tags, for free. In return, you supply me the special kunai, for free. A fair trade, considering their battle potential. Tenchi rubbed his chin in thought. He could see that the tags had a very high chance of selling. Hell, he might even say that the value of the tags were higher than the tri-pronged kunai, as it was only an oddly shaped kunai and nothing more. Still, he needed to see how much thought Naruto had put into making these tags. I don't know, Naruto. Don't you ninjas have a jutsu that multiplies the number of kunai as well? Why would they use this tag and not that jutsu? Naruto had half expected this question, so he answered, the kunai Kage Bunshin is a variant of Kage Bunshin, so it uses up a large amount of the user's chakra, leaving them very little chakra and a high risk of getting chakra exhaustion quickly. In my tags, you only have to push a little chakra to multiply the number of kunai by large. Tenchi grinned, you have a deal Naruto. As long as you keep supplying these to me, you can get your order for free. Naruto grinned and held out his hand for Tenchi to shake, then we have a deal. You can keep these tags, so how long before I can get 30 of my kunai? Tenchi shrugged, you can collect them from me tomorrow. Naruto smiled and nodded, walking out of the store after collecting and paying for the order he gave to Tenten. He blinked when he saw it was already early evening. Might as well get some training done. Master those jutsus back from the wave, he decided as he made his way to the Senju library. He proceeded to spend the entire night training with his shadow clones, which were in an absurd amount of 200. Suten, Daibakufu no Jutsu, to his pleasant surprise, required him to reduce only 2 more hand seals, bringing the number to 8. The Suryuden, on the other hand, would require much more training. Reducing the hand seals to 30 was good and all, but the Nadaime was able to do it with just 4 hand seals. Finishing his training for the day, he turned in, exhausted more than he would like to admit. XXXXXXX. Naruto had a very uneventful start of the day after. He got up at 5, did his regular running routine with increased resistance, came back and showered. He ate omelets for breakfast, played around with seals until it was 10 minutes to 11 and then went to meet his teammates, who were irritated and angry at Kakashi, again. He thought that maybe, Kakashi might give them something interesting to do, like another C-rank mission or some training. But no, they did some lame D-rank mission of taking the weeds out of someone's garden, before Kakashi dismissed them, saying something about keep training. After that, he was aimlessly roaming around, thinking about what happened after their mission. It was the only highlight of his day until now. Flashback. All right, you are dismissed, Kakashi said in his ever-lazy tone, eyes not moving from his book. Naruto groaned, come on, Kakashi-sensei. It is only noon right now, we have half the day to do some training. While Sasuke and Sakura didn't say anything, Naruto knew even they wanted something interesting to happen. Kakashi calmly flipped a page. Naruto, I dismissed you already. You can do your own training now. He looked up from the pages. Trust me, it's better that you all train by yourself right now. Perfect whatever you have learned until now. Smiling, he was gone in a puff of smoke. Sakura turned to Sasuke, blushing lightly. Sasuke-kun, would you go out with me today, now that we're free? As usual, Sasuke scoffed and walked away saying, you heard Kakashi-sensei. I'm going to train myself. He looked at her from the corner of his eye. It's better that you do too. Right now, you are the weakest member of this team. Naruto winced at his teammate's blunt words, but what he said was true. A simple punch was enough to take Sakura out, which was not a good thing. Shaking his head, he formed a half-ram and vanished in a wind shunshin, leaving Sakura to her thoughts. He was walking towards a dango shop when he saw Team 10 coming out, chewing on some dango. Smiling, he walked towards them to catch up with Shikamaru and Chuji. Oi, Shikamaru, Chuji. The mentioned genin looked up in surprise and smiled when they saw Naruto waving towards them. Yo, Naruto. Shikamaru gave a lazy wave while Chuji was more enthusiastic. Ino, on the other hand, scowled a bit. She never liked Naruto. He was too loud and annoying according to her. Naruto stopped in front of them. What's up? Where's Asuma-sensei? Chuji replied, Asuma-sensei dismissed us for the day. What about you, Naruto? Naruto shrugged in response, Kakashi-sensei dismissed us early too. Very unusual of him, if you ask me. Ino couldn't hold back her sneer, well, no one's asking you. Naruto glanced at Ino and rose an eyebrow, nice to see you too, Ino. That was all he said before he turned to Shikamaru, asking if he and Chuji could spar with him. Shikamaru sighed, muttering troublesome under his breath, but agreed along with Chuji. It would allow him to see how far they have come. Though he knew that they wouldn't be defeating Naruto anytime soon. Ino scoffed, smirking at Naruto, you really shouldn't be asking to spar with Shikamaru and Chuji. They would wipe the floor with you, dead last. Chuji did not like what Ino implied and he prepared to defend Naruto when Naruto spoke before him, amusement written all over his face. Oh, really? Ino nodded, even I could kick your ass. I bet that on the C rank turned a rank your team went on, Sasuke-kun saved your ass and defeated Zabuza. Naruto looked confused and asked Shikamaru, how do you guys know about that? Shikamaru replied, Asuma-sensei apparently heard it from your sensei and told us. Naruto nodded and turned back to Ino. This was the perfect opportunity for him to teach Ino a lesson about how to not act like a bitch. He asked her, how about a spar, Ino? If you said you can beat me, then I wouldn't mind a workout right now before losing to you. Ino smirked, thinking she could easily beat him, then let's go. Training Ground 10. After they reached there, Naruto and Ino stood in front of each other, with Shikamaru acting as the referee. This is only a spar. You only knock the other unconscious, not kill them. Are you ready? Even speaking in his lazy tone, he sounded serious. Must be a Nara thing, he mused. Naruto and Ino nodded, falling into their stances. Shikamaru chopped the air, Hajime. He fell back after that. Naruto, keeping his guard up and deciding to bait Ino, relaxed and put his hands in his pockets. Ino scowled and asked, what the hell are you doing? Naruto cleaned his ear, it's just that, you don't threaten me Ino. Ino snarled and dashed forward, throwing a punch, intending on breaking his nose. Her anger turned into shock when Naruto simply stopped her punch with one hand, he didn't even look like he tried. Shikamaru and Chuji were surprised as well, but not as much as Ino. They knew Naruto was not the dead last, even in academy. If anything, he was perhaps the strongest of the rookies. Ino's going to get beat up, isn't she, Shikamaru? Shikamaru simply hummed in response. Ino was getting very frustrated. Naruto was dodging her attacks like he had all the time in the world. And he was blocking them like they had no power behind them. She decided to goad him, HMPH, are you too afraid of countering? Or you don't know how to counter at all? Naruto was quickly getting bored of Ino's pathetic attacks and pathetic ways of goading him. Better to end this, otherwise I'm gonna fall asleep, he thought. Catching a punch that was coming towards his face, he gave a devastating punch to her gut, knocking the air out. He didn't even give her time to fall to her knees, following with an uppercut to her chin that was strong enough to straighten her up and finishing off with a spinning back kick that knocked her a few feet back. Ino was barely keeping from crying in pain. Her stomach felt like someone had been jumping on it for an hour and she was pretty sure a few of her teeth were knocked loose. She barely registered Naruto's mocking voice, "You sure showed me, Ino. You're just as pathetic as Sakura. What were you saying about kicking my ass again?" Gritting her teeth, she fought the pain and began to form handseals, only to get knocked out. Naruto shook his head, some people are nothing but full of air. He then glanced at the other two, who were barely surprised. Well, patch her up and tell her that the next time blows hot air, it better be fire for her own sake. With that, he walked away. Flashback end. Naruto was snapped out of his musings when he heard something behind him. Glancing back, he barely registered the urge to smack his forehead when he saw a brown box with 2 holes facing him. It was an eventful day, meeting the old man's grandson. He had managed to, somehow, become a rival of Konohamaru in becoming the Hokage. He had knocked some sense into that boy's head, showing him that not everybody bowed to him just because he was the Hokage's grandson. Ever since that day, he became an object of hero worship. Turning to the box, he said with some exasperation, "Konohamaru, square boxes with holes don't exist, you know." A squeaky, muffled voice came from the box, "Wow. Discovering my presence this early. As I expected from my rival and my hero." There was a bright explosion of colored smoke, from which 3 figures emerged, coughing. "Hey, you used too much powder." It was then they noticed Naruto looking at them with something akin to amusement. Naruto was looking at Konohamaru and 2 other kids he had never seen. One was a boy with black hair, glasses and a runny nose. The other was a girl with orange hair, a slight blush on both of her cheeks. Konohamaru grinned up to Naruto. "Boss, you have some time, right?" Naruto looked confused at what he was trying to say at first, but he quickly pieced it together. Hyper 8-year-old kid with friends, asking if he was free or not. Yep, they wanted him to play ninja with them. "How about you humor them?" Kurama asked with a grin. Naruto rolled his eyes. "If I humor them, Kurama, I would be stuck with them all day. That is something I don't want to do," he said with resignation. Turning his attention back to Konohamaru, he said, "While I do have some time, I won't be playing ninja with you. You guys get too carried away." He tried to gently let him down. Then something struck him. "Hey, you haven't introduced your friends. Who are they?" "I'm Udon and I like numbers." The black-haired boy greeted in what was the deadliest voice possible. "And I'm Mogi, the most beautiful Kunoichi in Konoha," the orange-haired girl said in a bubbly voice. Naruto smiled. God, how innocent these kids are. What's the point of a ninja playing ninja? A voice that sounded detached came. All of them turned to look at Sakura, who looked like someone had just told her Sasuke was gay. Naruto's expression became his usual bored, indifferent look. "Sakura, what are you doing here?" Before Sakura could reply, Konohamaru nudged Naruto with a sly look. "Hey boss. She's your, right?" he asked holding up a pinky with a smirk. Naruto chuckled, "No Konohamaru, she's just my teammate." That seemed to fire up Konohamaru even more, just what I expected from my rival. Her forehead is huge and her chest is flat as a board. Naruto's head snapped to Sakura to see her reaction. Konohamaru might as well have signed his death. Sakura's mood did a full 180 after hearing the kid wearing the blue scarf. She got a menacing look on her face and cracked her knuckles, clearly saying, "You are dead." Naruto pushed Konohamaru. "Run kid. I'll meet you later." Konohamaru needed to more pushing as he ran in the opposite direction with his friends, screaming in horror. Naruto shook his head and made to follow him, ignoring Kurama's chuckles. That kid has a lot to learn, he thought as he made a shadow clone who took after Konohamaru while he took a different path. If he was fast enough, his little rival wouldn't have bumps in his head. He kept his sensing active to track Sakura's signature and made his turns such that he would meet them in the opposite direction. What he did not expect was face the back of 2 shinobi his age, 1 boy and a girl, the boy holding up Konohamaru who was terrified. That's not good, he thought as he perfectly switched with his clone, and that was when he got a good look at the foreigners. The one that held Konohamaru honestly looked like a cat, with how his headwear looked. He was wearing face paint of all things, black sandals, black shirt and black pants. The other one was the one who caught his attention in a way that no girl had caught before. He somehow couldn't stop staring at her. She was, by far, the most beautiful kunoichi he had ever laid his eyes on. She wore a single light purple-colored, off-the-shoulders garment that extended to halfway down her thighs, with a red sash tied around her waist. She wore a fishnet over her exposed shoulders, along with on her left thigh and right calf. She was also carrying a large fan on her back. She had her hair towed up in 4 ponytails, with a rather developed chest for her age, which he guessed was a year higher than them, curves in all the right places, slightly tanned skin, sandy blonde hair and alluring teal eyes. Temari noticed the blonde boy staring at her and couldn't help the slight blush that came onto her age. He was pretty tall, easily a bit above 5 feet and obviously well built if how his clothes fit him were anything to go by. His hair, to her pleasant surprise, was a very golden shade of blonde, bordering on yellow. She looked at his eyes and her blush darkened a bit. His eyes were the most beautiful azure she had ever seen, staring at her with curiosity and something else she couldn't identify, but it gave her a warm feeling. She shook her head and focused on her brother, who was glaring at the kid with annoyance. That hurt, you damn brat. He was clearly pissed off. Naruto decided that now was the time to intervene and with a hidden signal to his clone, spoke up, you might want to put him down, Kabuki boy. That only seemed to piss him off even more, yeah. What if I don't? He then froze, getting the unmistakable feeling of a kunai on his neck. I don't need to say it, right? Temari looked with wide eyes as the blonde who was standing before them had somehow made a clone who was holding a kunai to her brother's neck. And they hadn't even seen him move. He's good, she thought as she saw Kankuro grudgingly release the boy, who ran and hid behind the blonde's legs. A second later, a pebble hit his hand, which he clutched in pain and cried out, who did that? Naruto couldn't help the sigh that came out. Didn't he say he was going to train? He had already sensed Sasuke, who was standing on the branch of the tree behind him, bouncing a pebble in his hands with a superior look on his face. Interestingly, he also sensed another guy, who was giving off a very malicious feeling and oozing off killing intent like nobody's business. Deciding to address it later, he turned his attention back to in front of him. Sasuke-kun. Sakura shrieked. Naruto rubbed his ringing ears at the terrible soprano. Temari looked at Sasuke, he's cute, but he's nowhere as handsome as the blonde, she smirked, eyes turning back to check Naruto out. Kankuro snarled and made to grab the package on his back, which Naruto deduced to be a puppet judging from their sand headbands and the fact that Suna is known for puppets, when he decided to intervene. Temari asked, you're going to use Karasu, Kankuro? Wait. His sudden exclamation momentarily stopped the sand shinobi momentarily. He pointed to the tree behind him, I just wanted to know if the guy standing behind my teammate is with you or not. Both of their eyes widened along with Sasuke's, who whipped around to see a redhead standing upside down on a branch behind him. He had a kanji for love on his forehead, teal eyes with black rings around his eyes, giving him an appearance like a tanuki, and he was carrying a gourd on his back. He disappeared in a whirl of sand and reappeared by the side of the puppet kid. Kankuro, stop it. We're not here to cause trouble. Stop embarrassing our village, he spoke in a voice so cold that even Naruto shivered. However, the reactions of the sand shinobi were even more scared. Kankuro stammered out an apology, Gaara. They started it. They. Shut up, or I'll kill you, Gaara said in his deadly voice. Kankuro shut up immediately. Gaara turned to the Konoha shinobi, apologies to you guys. They made to walk off when Sasuke jumped in front of Naruto and demanded in an arrogant voice, you there? What's your name? Pointing to Gaara. All three of them turned, with Gaara speaking, Sabaku no Gaara. What's yours? Sasuke gave off a challenging smirk, Uchiha Sasuke. I wasn't talking to you, Gaara said monotonously, eyes turning to Naruto, who straightened up. Uzumaki Naruto, he said in a strong voice. Eyes shifting to Temari, he smiled and asked, what's yours? Temari smiled in return, Sabaku no Temari, nice to meet you. They looked into each other's eyes and kept staring, neither wanting to look away. Unfortunately, Sakura chose this moment to speak up. Listen, although Konoha and Suna are allies, our treaty prevents shinobi from entering each other's villages without permission. State your purpose. Naruto simply looked on, his face not betraying anything. Temari spoke up, holding up her passport. As you can see, we're genin of Sunagaku no Sato, Kei's no Kuni. We've come to this village to take part in the Chunin exams. She gave a mocking smile to her, don't you know, being the genin of the host village. Naruto gave a shake of head from behind Sakura, clearly mouthing, our sensei hasn't informed us yet, Temari. Temari had thankfully seen him and received his message, giving him a nod. The three Sand siblings then turned and walked away, leaving Team 7 with Konohamaru and his friends. XXXXXXX. You all should already know why people from other villages are here, the Hokage addressed the assembly of Jonin and Chunin. Kakashi spoke up, is it that time of the year already, Hokage-sama? Asuma replied to him, I believe so. I have already seen a few shinobi the age of our genin in our village. Kurenai spoke up, when is it, Hokage-sama? 7 days from now, Kurenai-chan. Now, will all the Jonin step forward who are in charge of the newest batch of genin? Asuma, Kakashi and Kurenai stepped forward. Hiruzen gave them a contemplative stare and asked, do you wish to enter any of your genin in the exams? Kakashi spoke up, from the squad that I led, Team 7, I recommend Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke and Haruna Sakura to the Chunin selection exams under the name, Hitaki Kakashi. Asuma spoke next, from the squad that I led, Team 10, I recommend Nara Shikamaru, Akamaiki Chuji and Yamanaka Ino to the Chunin selection exams under the name, Sarutobi Asuma. Kurenai was the last, from the squad that I led, Team 8, I recommend Hyuga Hinata, Inazuka Kiba and Aburame Shino to the Chunin selection exams under the name, Yuhi Kurenai. The crowd behind them erupted into murmurs. All three of them nominated their teams. All the genin being entered are fresh rookies. It's been so long since rookies have been entered in the Chunin exams. Iruka, who had been standing in the back and watching his former students, who were not even 1 year into their career, get nominated for the Chunin exams, could hold it anymore. Please wait, Hokage-sama. Permission to speak. Hiruzen gave him a silent nod to continue. Iruka then spoke frantically, excuse me for saying this, but your 9 students were once my students in the academy. They need more experience before they enter the Chunin exams. Kakashi knew that Iruka was worried about Naruto, but he was now Kakashi's student, not Iruka's. So he spoke up in a serious tone that betrayed his lazy posture, I became a Chunin when I was 6 years younger than Naruto. Iruka's comeback was spot on, don't compare Naruto to yourself, Kakashi. He is different. Kakashi knew that Naruto could easily ace the exams, but he addressed the issue that was common among all genin. The genin are starting to believe that a shinobi's life is easy. Putting them in dangerous situations might set them straight. Iruka began speaking, but they are not your students anymore, Iruka-sensei. They are my subordinates now and as such, I am the one who will make such decisions for them, he sternly reminded the gentle Chunin-sensei. Hiruzen spoke to the defeated Iruka, Iruka, I see where you are coming from. Iruka lightened up a bit, which is why, the rookies will be put through a special preliminary round. Dismissed. As soon as the siblings left, Naruto bade a hasty goodbye to Konohamaru and shunshined out of there straight to training ground 6. That team, he noted, doesn't train much, so they wouldn't mind him using their training ground. As he created a few shadow clones for sparring, Kurama briefly brought him into his mindscape. Naruto, do you know why that boy felt so familiar to you? He asked, tail swaying behind him as he looked at Naruto. Naruto folded his arms, good to know that it wasn't just me then. I believe that he is another Jinchuriki. Kurama nodded, exactly. But be on guard, his Bayu is dangerous and because of who is inside him, it's possible that the boy is completely mad. Naruto tilted his head curiously. It's not every day that the 9-tailed fox says someone is powerful. Just who is inside him, Kurama? The 1-tailed raccoon, Shukaku. He is the weakest of the tailed beasts, and batshit insane, he said it with a serious face, at which Naruto would have laughed if not for the fact that he realized that another Jinchuriki is roaming unchecked in Konoha. Jinchuriki, according to the stuff he has read up until now, are usually sent into other villages so they can burn or crush it into the ground. And he didn't see any person with Gaara who was in charge of him. Kankuro and Temari certainly couldn't control him, evidenced by how much afraid they are of him. Kurama continued, you notice the black rings around his eyes. It means that he hasn't slept in years, probably. Naruto went wide-eyed at that, what the hell? Kurama nodded in complete seriousness, Suna doesn't have any great seal masters, so the seal on that Jinchuriki is quite loose, compared to yours. If the host falls asleep, Shukaku will take control and come out. Best be on guard, because he already got you in his sights, no doubt from sensing my presence within you. Naruto agreed, thanks for the warning, Kurama. I'll keep it in mind. With that, he exited his mindscape and focused on the defending exercise. As he blocked and dodged every strike from his clones, he hoped that Kakashi would enter them in the Chunin exams. Then another thought came to his mind, more specifically, a person. He smiled wistfully as he punched a clone in the ribs, dispelling it. He had never seen such a beautiful girl ever before. Then again, there weren't many girls of his age in Konoha, and Ino and Sakura didn't count. He knew from the day he saw them that he wouldn't be liking them anytime soon. Temari was different, however, and in a good way. Her looks were quite exotic, especially her eyes. He had never seen eyes of that color, and he had to admit, it was quite easy getting lost in them for him. He knew, from his own observations, that his own eye color was one of a kind in all of Konoha. Her being a blonde like him was only a plus point in his eyes. From what he had observed and could tell, she and the two other shinobi were siblings, with Temari being the oldest. It was pretty easy to reach that conclusion. Temari and Gaara shared the same eyes and facial shape, but Temari shared the shape of her eyes with Kankuro, not to mention the way she acted with him. Very much like an older sister who was used to bashing her brother's head but didn't because they were in public. And that smirk, oh Kami. He could say with full certainty that it was the sexiest smirk he had seen among the girls of his age, which was quite ironic seeing he created the sexy jutsu. Her smile was not far behind, though it could easily beat her smirk when coupled with the very pretty blush that came over her face while she was looking at him. He could not wait to see her again. XXXXXXX. Team 7 was standing on the bridge and as usual, waiting for the tardy mess of a sensei. It had been almost 3 hours, when Sakura finally cracked. With a scream of frustration that no doubt scared the birds resting a mile away, she ranted, why does Kakashi-sensei always make us wait when he's the one who always calls us? She began ranting about she had woken up late and hadn't had the chance to blow dry her hair. Naruto and Sasuke glanced at each other, sharing a look of shared suffering. While Naruto had just turned up 20 minutes ago, he still couldn't bear Sakura's incessant nonsense. Why the hell does she have to be so damn loud every time? Was the thought that went through the boys' heads. Naruto finally sensed Kakashi's presence heading their way and straightened up. Sasuke, who had learned to read Naruto's body language after a while, straightened up as well, knowing that his teammate had sensed someone coming their way. True enough, there was a puff of smoke, which turned out to be Kakashi. Waving a hand at him, he had the nerve to cheerfully excuse himself, hello there. I got lost on the road of life today. Only someone like you could get lost on a one-way road, Naruto grumbled, hands in his pockets and giving Kakashi a deadpan look. I'll pretend you didn't say that and get to the point. He held up 3 application tickets, I nominated you 3 for the Chunin selection exams. You are not forced to take it, however. You have a choice whether to take part in it or not. How he managed to say in his ever-lazy tone of voice and still sound serious was beyond Naruto's understanding. Must be innate talent, he mused. Though if you do decide to take them, go to the academy in 6 days at 3 in the afternoon, room 301, he added. They were dismissed after that. Naruto suggested that they get lunch together, after which they can go their separate ways to train. While they were walking to Ichiraku Ramen, Naruto noticed that Sakura looked quite uncertain, which matched the feeling of her chakra. Something bothering you, Sakura? Sakura blinked and looked at Naruto, a nervous smile appearing in her face. No, Naruto. Everything's fine. Sasuke too noticed her behavior, but kept quiet. As long as she was ready for the Chunin exams, it was fine. Naruto on the other hand, had doubts. He knew that Chunin exams were no joke. Ninja from all the villages participated and at times, death happened. He would be scared too, if he didn't train his ass off every day. Hope this exam teaches you a lesson, Sakura. The world of shinobi is not a place for fangirls, he grimly thought to himself. They went into the bar and were greeted by Tuki with a warm grin. Oh, Naruto and his team. Come and have a seat. Naruto grinned. Old man Tuki never failed to bring a smile on his face. His amusement grew when he heard Sasuke mutter, "Stop saying it like he is the leader of this team." As they sat down on the stools, Tuki asked for orders. Naruto was the first to speak. "I'll have 2 miso ramen, please." Sakura spoke next. "1 toriniki ramen, please." Sasuke was the last. "I'll have a tonkatsu ramen, thank you." Naruto envied the way Sasuke ordered his food. The arrogance came so natural to him, Naruto wished that he could do it as well. He turned to Sakura, who looked worried about something. Come to think of it, she has been acting strange ever since the topic of Chunin exams came up, he thought. It's not that strange for weaklings to feel this way when they are faced with the unknown, Kurama offered his view. Naruto rolled his eyes and ignored the comment, though he didn't deny it either. So, he decided to talk to her. Speaking in a low tone, he asked her, "Sakura, how do you feel about the Chunin exams?" Sakura was startled when he suddenly spoke to her. Calming down herself, she was about to tell him to mind his own business when she met his eyes. So full of sincerity, and he seemed to genuinely want to listen to her. She hesitated, not sure of how she should say it. It's kind of scary, you know. Right now, I know that I'm not ready, but when will I know that I am? Her thoughts were very much jumbled up right now to be phrased properly. Naruto said nothing until their order arrived. He separated his sticks and as he waited for it to cool a bit, he spoke, "I won't sugarcoat my words, Sakura, but you haven't trained seriously since the academy and even then, you probably did the bare minimum of what the instructors told to do, didn't you?" Her silence and shameful expression told him that his deduction was spot on. A side glance also told him that Sasuke was eating his food quietly, not paying any attention to them. But that did not fool Naruto, who smirked when he observed Sasuke's body was tilted towards their side. He continued, "Ever since the academy and even after when our team was formed, you kept neglecting your training in favor of pining after Sasuke, even going on a diet in the process." He didn't stop eating his food at all, looking as if talking about the weather. Sakura felt like she wanted to find a hole and climb into it and never come out. She wanted so badly to tell Naruto to shut up, but bitter truth in his words stopped her from doing it. She would be lying to herself that she did not know what Naruto was talking about. Naruto kept a careful eye on the pink-haired girl. Now that she had seen her situation laid bare in front of her instead of being buried deep inside her mind, it was time to let her know of the consequences. Now look at yourself. You don't have the physique required for a strong kunoichi, your neglect of training means you have no grasp of the basic skills to improve further upon them. Your weapon throwing is mediocre at best. All you have is excellent chakra control, but let's face it, you aren't the only one who does. Kakashi-sensei said that you are a genjutsu type, but you don't know any genjutsu, nor can you dispel one, as proven in the bell test. In short, one hit is all what anyone needs to take you out. He finished his meal and was now looking straight at her. He won't stop now. Sakura needed to hear this. It was time she faced the facts. Sakura was barely keeping from bursting out in tears. Everything Naruto said was true, and while she hated to admit it, the facts made her sound pathetic. Ever since the academy, she had only increased her efforts in impressing Sasuke instead of bettering herself. She had repeatedly told herself that Sasuke would save her whenever she would be in danger. Her being with Sasuke on the same team only reinforced that belief. But in the C rank turned a rank, she felt for the first time, that she was the one who was utterly useless on their team. What was worse, was that she did not do anything to change it after returning, still hoping to get together with Sasuke. Oh, one hit. Am I really that pathetic and useless? She knew the answer to that question. While she did have some natural strength, it was useless to her if she did not know how to use it. Naruto and Sasuke were strong too, but what made them strong that they had the strength to take a hit and get back up, only to dish it back with even greater ferocity. Sakura could dish it out, and even that was questionable, but couldn't take the punishment. She couldn't take a punch to her gut and have the strength to get up. Naruto had been quietly watching Sakura and he had to say, the girl looked just one more truth away from bursting into tears. He had, while Sakura was wallowing in guilt, quietly motioned Sasuke to leave. The dark-haired boy had looked outraged that Naruto was waving him away like a servant and had almost tore into him when he saw the serious and somber look in his eyes. Naruto had mouthed to him that Sakura would be heartbroken if she were to learn that Sasuke saw her in her moment of weakness. So he quietly finished his food and went outside, leaning against the wall and waiting for them. Now that the tough part of learning about the consequences was over, it was time for some motivation. He changed the topic of the conversation. Idly spinning the chopsticks between his fingers, he said, "I saw Team 10 the other day." He quietly cheered when he saw the tiny spark of interest in her eyes. On Team 10 was Sakura's rival, Ino. Oh, yeah, and Ino challenged me to a spar. Can you believe that? He gave an amused shake of his head. Sakura, too, gave a small chuckle at that. Ino had no chance of defeating Naruto when Sasuke had trouble just trying to match him. She was a bit less pathetic than you, but pathetic all the same. Isn't she your rival, Sakura? By now, she found it easier to concentrate on the conversation than her guilt. Yes, she is. Naruto adopted a look of confusion. Then why are you not trying to beat her? You don't want to lose Sasuke to her, right? That did catch her attention, because her eyes now held a little panic. What do you mean by losing Sasuke? Naruto debated whether to tell her or not. This was the true key to motivating a person with a rival: bring a common goal in between them. Ino and Sakura were still competing for Sasuke's attention, which was the perfect way for him to take advantage and motivate her. He fully turned to face her. You might not know this, but Sasuke's the last Uchiha alive who is still loyal to Konoha, and as such, he has to repopulate his clan. You know what that means, right? He gave her a pointed look. A dark blush came over her face, but she nodded. She couldn't believe how Naruto could talk about it without feeling the least bit awkward. She didn't know that he did, but he just hid his awkwardness better than others. Naruto continued, to do it, he will need strong women in the future. It all comes down to this: if you don't get strong enough, he will pick Ino over you and you will be left behind. The desired effect was achieved when he saw a fire light up in her eyes. Yep, she definitely couldn't stand losing to Ino. Oh, he almost forgot. One more thing. The answer to your question: you won't. There is no one to tell you that you are ready. It's a leap of faith. He got up and put some money on the counter. That's all it is, Sakura, a leap of faith, he softly finished. Just before he left, he saw something he had definitely not seen in her eyes ever before. Fierce determination. Unknown to the team, Ayami and Tuki were quietly listening in on their conversation. By the end of it, Ayami looked amazed at the way Naruto had successfully managed to motivate her. He was born to be a leader. I know it, she thought with a smile. Tuki was smiling like he was the proudest man in the world. He had been attending to Naruto for years and he always knew that Naruto was destined for great things. After witnessing firsthand Naruto's motivational speech, it only reinforced what he already knew. Naruto, you will become a great, no, the greatest Hokage this village has ever seen. Walking out, he immediately silenced Sasuke, who opened his mouth, no doubt to rant at him for bringing him into this, and motioned him to follow him. They jumped onto the opposite rooftop and crouched. What are we waiting for? Sasuke whispered. Just watch, Naruto said, pointing to the ramen bar. A few moments later, Sakura walked out and Sasuke could definitely see that she was different. Her fangirl was still visible in her eyes, but was now overshadowed by a fierce look of determination. He watched, amazed that she did not even seem to look for him, instead, turning around and heading towards the training grounds. He turned to his blonde comrade, who was watching Sakura go away with a smile and no small amount of self-satisfaction. What did you do? Hell, even his voice was filled with stupefaction. Naruto gave an innocent shrug, the smile still on his face. Nothing, just pointed her in the direction of success. He left after that, leaving a speechless Sasuke behind. XXXXXXX. Naruto was just roaming around the training grounds, having finished his training 15 minutes ago. He felt really good after motivating Sakura to become stronger today. Just as he was turning to leave, he sensed it. 3 chakra signatures, 200 meters away. One was average, other a bit above average, and the last, which was faintly familiar, only a bit above a civilian's. He had already sent a few clones home to prepare dinner, and since there was still time, why not train his stealth skills a bit? He jogged on his toes, cautious not to make any sound. When he was just 50 meters away, he stopped and made a half-ram seal. A puff of smoke later, a small, light brown fox was standing in his place. Lowering his chakra signature by a significant margin, he moved forward. This should allow me to get close, he thought as he hid 2 trees away from the chakra signatures. You heard. The upcoming Chunin exams will have rookies for the first time in 5 years. The fox's eyes narrowed. I know that voice. It's Rock Lee, the kid I met during one of my morning rounds. No way. The Jonins must be trying to look good, another voice joined in. This one held confidence, bordering on overconfidence. Lee spoke again, 3 of them are from Kakashi's unit as well, you know. The last voice finally spoke. But unlike the previous 2, this held a sort of arrogance not unlike Sasuke's. That's interesting. Either way, the girl spoke, who Naruto finally identified as Tenten from the Higurashi weapons shop. That's quite pitiful for them. The arrogant voice spoke as if he already knew who was going to win. Naruto decided that was enough and turned to go back, but he cursed when he stepped on a twig. He could not even sense, since he would be molding chakra and alerting them was the last thing he wanted to do. Don't worry, the arrogant one spoke, it's just a fox. Naruto inwardly sighed in relief and ran away and did not turn back into himself until he was out of the training grounds. The thought didn't cross his mind that how did he know that it was only a fox. One thing is for sure. These Chunin exams will definitely be interesting. XXXXXXX. 6 days passed and it was the day of the Chunin exams. Sasuke and Naruto had arrived at the academy, and Naruto could tell, Sasuke was fired up like anything. The only one left to arrive was Sakura. They were simply waiting outside the gates when Sakura arrived. And there was something visibly different about her. She looked like usual, but her posture had a confidence that both of them hadn't seen before. Naruto looked into her eyes and smiled at what he saw. Resolve. Resolve to see this through, and she didn't look the least bit uncertain. Good morning Naruto, Sasuke-kun, she greeted. Sasuke, for his part, hid his surprise just barely. Whenever she greeted him, she did like a fangirl. Now, she looked just like a determined Kunoichi. Good morning Sakura, Naruto greeted with a nod. Sasuke just gave his customary grunt. Let's stop wasting time in greetings and go, he ordered curtly, striding inside without even waiting for them. Sakura gave an amused look to Naruto, who just shrugged in a way that said, what can you do? They caught up to him and ascended the stairs, silently and focused. The sound of a crowd caught their attention and they went to investigate. Upon arriving at the scene, they stared in surprise at the large crowd. What the hell was going on? Then Naruto sensed the genjutsu over the whole corridor and narrowed his eyes. In front of them were 2 guards who looked suspiciously familiar. Naruto narrowed his eyes at them and it suddenly came to him, causing him to resist a facepalm. Who were Izumo and Kotetsu trying to fool with that obvious henge? Sasuke nudged Sakura, this is only the 2nd floor, isn't it? Sakura looked at him in surprise. Sasuke never, ever talked to her so actively. She looked at Naruto, who gave her a thumbs up. She turned to Sasuke and spoke confidently, hi, since we've only climbed 2 floors. This is obviously a genjutsu. Sasuke then nodded to himself and started walking to the crowd, mostly to show off by proclaiming that a genjutsu of this caliber does not fool him. But a hand to his shoulder caused him to turn around and glare at Naruto, who was shaking his head. The people over there still haven't noticed that they are still just on the 2nd floor, he said softly. This is probably a test designed to weed out the weaklings, so let's just slip by, nice and quiet, he suggested. Sasuke found that this was becoming quite frequent. Him going off to do something, Naruto stopping him and giving a suggestion, Sasuke agreeing, albeit grudgingly that the suggestion was better and following Naruto. Even now, Naruto's suggestion was strategically better. Reducing the competition meant their chance of winning was higher. To be completely honest, Sasuke was jealous of Naruto. He was jealous of his strength, his skills, his natural charisma, the way that leadership seemed to fit with him like a glove, how it came to him so naturally. Obviously, his own desire to be at the top and be leader clashed with Naruto's. He could not stand to remain second best, especially to Naruto of all people. Clenching his fists in his pockets, he nodded and as one, quietly slipped through the crowd and took the stairs to the 3rd floor. As they were heading to 301, a voice came from above them. Hey, you, the one with the dark eyes. Please wait. They all turned and looked above to see a kid wearing a tight, green jumpsuit and orange leg warmers. His black hair had a bowl cut style and he had amazingly thick eyebrows. He was looking at Sasuke. Naruto rose an eyebrow at him. What is Lee playing at? Lee jumped down to their level and it was only then he recognized Naruto. He gave off a blinding grin. Naruto-kun. What a youthful surprise to see you here. Sakura and Sasuke gave Naruto mildly horrified looks. They didn't know that Naruto knew this weirdo. As for Naruto, he just took a page from Kakashi's book and gave a lazy wave in a lazy voice. Yo. It turned out be the wrong thing to say, as Lee cried out while shaking a fist. What hip and cool attitude. Your flames of youth seem to have diminished since the last time we met. Naruto shrugged and decided to intervene in case Lee takes off on a tangent. So Lee, why did you stop us? Lee suddenly sobered and turned to Sasuke. Sorry, I got distracted. My name is Rock Lee, and I wish to challenge this year's prodigy, Uchiha Sasuke, to a fight. Sasuke replied back coldly, and why should I give you the time? He gave a once-over and found him lacking any sort of strength whatsoever. He, however, didn't like the way Lee called him a prodigy. A prodigy should stand out of a crowd, and the title felt cheap because Naruto was stronger than him. Lee smiled. I am the strongest Konoha genin right now. A test for myself, and to see if you're as good as everyone says you are. Sasuke smirked, causing Naruto to sigh in resignation. Just a mention of a fight was enough to get Sasuke's blood pumping. 10 minutes later, he found himself looking at a beat-up Sasuke and wondered if it was a mistake or did Sasuke deliberately underestimate Lee. Judging from appearance, Lee was nothing special. But apparently, Sasuke had never heard the phrase, appearances can be deceiving. Lee had absolutely dominated the fight, even when Sasuke had activated his Sharingan. All throughout the fight, Sasuke had been trying to just find Lee, because he was unbelievably fast. Of course, Naruto had easily followed Lee's movements, because he himself had surpassed that speed with his resistance seals activated at level 11 long ago. He closely observed that even when Sasuke had just begun to react fast enough, he was smashed by Lee's superior taijutsu skills and pure speed. Just when Lee was about to end the fight, it was ended by a talking turtle of all people. Lee, that technique is forbidden, he yelled at him. Lee bowed his head in apology. I'm sorry, I got carried away. The turtle glared at Lee, causing him to flinch. But I wasn't planning to use the R reverse version. Barker, the turtle exclaimed, causing Lee to flinch again. You think that excuse will work? You should know what it means for a shinobi to expose his move. While the turtle was busy reprimanding Lee, Naruto glanced over to see if Sasuke was alright, but he wished he hadn't. Sasuke had a look of absolute loathing on his face as he glared at Lee and the turtle. I lost to that weirdo. He looked over to Sakura and saw that she was still shocked at the pure speed that Lee displayed. Looking over to Naruto, he resisted the urge to roar in rage. Naruto was looking bored, just as he was before the fight. There was not a single trace of alarm or fear that Sasuke could see. Which meant only one thing, Naruto was certain, no, absolutely confident that he could take on Lee and win. Just how strong is he? He doesn't look alarmed in the least. That means he knows he is stronger and faster than the weirdo. He knows he could counter Lee's every move whereas I couldn't even follow that guy. Is Naruto even in the same league as the rest of the genin? How can I, with the Sharingan, still not match up to him? Were the thoughts rushing through his head? He hated being weaker than anyone. He turned his attention back to the turtle, who said, Guy-sensei will take care of your punishment. An explosion of smoke erupted on the turtle's back and when it cleared, an adult version of Rock Lee was seen standing in a ridiculous pose. Geez, you guys are the epitome of the springtime of youth. To say Team 7 was freaked out was an understatement. They were shell-shocked at his appearance. Even Naruto was looking a bit alarmed, with Kurama screaming in his mind to make it stop. If Lee were just a few years older, no one would be able to tell the difference between him and Guy. Lee, you fool! Guy shouted at him, punching him in the jaw so hard that Lee flew back. Lee quickly recovered, though. Guy then proclaimed, for breaking the rule and fighting before the exam, you must complete 500 laps around Konoha before sundown. The whole of Team 7 gaped at the absurdity of the challenge, believing it to be nothing more than a joke. However, they were further shocked into disbelief at Lee's reply. Hi Guy-sensei. Lee's eyes were burning at the challenge. Probably at how much youthful it was, Naruto mused. Naruto decided to intervene before even more weirdness took place. Excuse me, but don't you think that you should focus on the Chunin exams right now? Guy-sensei turned to them for the first time, looking a bit sheepish. Oh, my bad. Turning to Lee, he coughed in his hand and said, Lee, you will fulfill your punishment after the Chunin exams, got it? Lee stood at attention. Hi, Guy-sensei. Guy then turned to the other team. So you guys are from Kakashi's team. Sasuke rose an eyebrow condescendingly. You know Kakashi. Guy chuckled as he rubbed his chin. Kakashi and I are eternal rivals. I am leading currently, with my 50 wins to Kakashi's 49. The whole team's 7 sweat dropped at that. Lee jumped in. Isn't Guy-sensei the greatest? Sasuke was studying Guy intensely, looking at the empty space. Wait, what? He and Sakura suddenly turned around to face Guy, who had gotten behind them so fast that not even a blur was visible. But Naruto showed no signs of surprise, having followed him with his eyes. Guy had only used low Jonin level speed right now. He knew that Guy had barely put effort in getting that fast to get behind them. While he could do it as well if he took his seals off for now, he would be destroyed in a contest of speed if Guy went full speed. There was only so much speed his 12-year body could go at before reaching a limit. Sasuke was looking at Guy with wide eyes along with Sakura. This guy, he's definitely faster than Kakashi. He thought with a grimace. Rage filled him once more. Damn it. How many people are there that I have to surpass to become capable of defeating him? Anyways, you guys should head to the room. Your exam is to begin soon. Good luck. Turning to Lee, he flashed a grin and a thumbs up. Do your best, Lee. Bask in the springtime of youth. He disappeared after that. Lee began to wrap his bandages up, but just before he left, he turned to Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, I apologize for lying before. I am not the strongest Konoha genin, it is my teammate. I entered this exam to defeat him, and you are one of my targets as well. Please prepare yourself, and I wish you all the best. After Lee finally walked away, Naruto carefully observed Sasuke. His fists were clenched tight, along with gritted teeth and a look of frustration and rage on his face. Naruto clenched his own fists and raged in his mind. Who does he think he is? Why does he keep thinking that he is the only one who is strong and the rest are weak? He kept his face carefully neutral as he faced Sasuke. What's wrong, Sasuke? He was careful to keep his voice level. He didn't even flinch when Sasuke faced him, a look of barely contained rage on his face. Shut up. I'll slaughter him next time. He promised. Naruto only rose an eyebrow. We are in the middle of an exam, which means there is little time. Sorry, no time for you to get better than him. Maybe after the exams, but not now. And why were you so angry and frustrated before? Is it so hard to accept that there are people of our age who are stronger and faster than you? Sasuke opened his mouth to tell Naruto to mind his own business, but nothing came out. He realized with a growl that what Naruto had said was true. He was brought up with the teachings from his father that the Uchiha are the greatest, and he learned it all with pride. So it was hard for his pride to accept that there is someone who is stronger, faster than him. Ever since the massacre, he had trained his hardest every day, trying to bridge the power gap between him, just so he could have his revenge. He thought that he had at least become stronger than his peers, only to find out how thoroughly outclassed he was among those of his own age. Naruto shook his head. One day, Sasuke's superiority complex is gonna blow up in his face. Sasuke was too proud of himself, believing his power was better than others and no one could match him. But pride always had its downfall, and it didn't look like Sasuke's gonna learn that lesson anytime soon. Anyway, we should get going. We don't want to be late for the exam, Naruto said as he took the lead, with Sakura following him after giving a concerned glance to Sasuke, who followed the last. They reached the room, only to see Kakashi leaning against the wall with his head buried in his pawn. Kakashi looked at them and closed his book, putting his hands in his pockets. He gave them a critical look. Sakura decided to come as well, I see. Naruto frowned at his statement. What do you mean by that? His voice held a hard edge now, warning Kakashi that he better not play with the answers right now. Kakashi, for his part, didn't take offense at Naruto's tone at all. Instead, he mentally approved of how Naruto spoke. It was clear that he was in the zone, ready to tackle a challenge. He had taken on a mindset of a serious shinobi now, mentally prepared for the challenges to come. He was also surprised at the lack of uncertainty in Sakura, which he had seen on the day he had given out the Chunin forms. Something had happened in between, but whatever it was, he was glad for it. A mild feeling of disappointment went through him when he saw Sasuke's state. There were light bruises on his face, and he looked like someone had just trampled on his ego. He mentally shook his head. Sasuke was too impulsive when it came to his pride and ego. He could never take any defeat in stride. For all his skills, Sasuke's mix of having both a superiority and an inferiority complex made him, in Kakashi's words, a sore loser. He shook these thoughts off and focused on answering Naruto. You are now, officially, registered to take the exams. To tell you the truth, Chunin exams can only be taken in teams of 3. So you lied that it is up to us whether we want to take part in it or not, Naruto stated, eyes narrowing. Kakashi nodded seriously, I did. I feared that if I hadn't, you two would have forced Sakura to take the exams with you. And if only they both had come here and not you, Sakura, I would have turned them away. He smiled, but I'm glad that you three came of your own free will, and as a team. Sakura, unnoticed by Kakashi, gave a small glance to Naruto and smiled, it's all thanks to you, Naruto. You washed away my uncertainty. Kakashi moved out of their way, go on in, then. Do your best. They opened the door, and were surprised to see the number of genin taking the Chunin exams. And all of them were looking at them. Naruto put on his game face, which was a neutral scowl. He was internally scoffing at the pathetic amount of killing intent coming their way. He looked back to see that Sasuke was unaffected as well. Sakura too, if not for the slight bead of sweat on the side of her face. He turned back, absently wondering if he would see any of his peers. Sasuke-kun. Naruto flinched, and then sighed. Kami, he hated that voice. He turned around just in time to see a blonde missile, Ino hug Sasuke tightly from behind. It's been so long since I have seen you, Sasuke-kun. I miss your dark looks, you know. Sakura spoke in a surprisingly normal tone, but serious nonetheless, let Sasuke-kun go, Ino pig. Ino glanced at Sakura, mocking her, I am surprised they let you compete, forehead. Sakura gained a tick mark, her voice getting a bit higher, you leave my forehead out of this. Ino just stuck her tongue out at Sakura. Naruto just rolled his eyes at the immature display. Oh, you guys are competing in this stupid test too. Shikamaru's voice came as he approached with Chuji. Naruto smirked and lightly commented, I didn't think you had the energy to take this exam, Shika. The said boy sighed, it's troublesome, but Ino threatened us with our lives, so we had to. Finally found you guys. Naruto saw that it was Kiba's voice, who was coming with teammate in tow. Hinata blushed at the sight of Naruto. Well, it looks like all the rookies are assembled. Shikamaru sighed, geez, you guys too. Kiba hummed, I wonder how far we will get, now that all of us are assembled. Sasuke. Sasuke smirked in return, you seem quite confident, Kiba. Kiba boasted, we trained a lot. We won't be losing to you. You guys should be quieter, you know, came a new voice from behind them. They all turned to see a bespectacled teenager with gray hair in a ponytail. He looked almost 17, and was wearing a Konoha high tie 8. You guys are rookies just out of the academy, right? You shouldn't be fooling around like that, he said. Ino took offense to that, who the hell are you to tell us that? I'm Yakushi Kabuto. And just take a look around you, he gently said, not seeming to mind her tone at all. All the rookies, except for Naruto and Sasuke, tensed up after looking around. They were the focal point of all the attention, and it wasn't the good kind. The team behind you is from a Megakure no Sato. They have short tempers, he explained. Naruto decided that he had enough of people trying to intimidate him and his team, so he turned the tables. He didn't exude any killing intent, but simply glared with his eyes. He was very much satisfied to see many of them flinch, and why shouldn't they? He had his father's eyes, and his father sent his enemies running in the opposite direction with just a look. These genin stood no chance. Kabuto-san, was it? Sakura's voice caused him to turn. Yes. Is this your second time taking these exams? No, actually it is my 7th, Kabuto admitted, sheepishly rubbing the back of his head. Wow, you must really suck then. Kiba's brashness surprised no one. Kabuto shrugged, conceding the point, or maybe the exams are just that hard. To help out, I thought I'd share some info on the other participants with my fellow Konoha nin. He withdrew a thick deck of cards from his weapons pouch. Who do you want to know about? Give me information on Sabaku no Gaara, Rock Lee and Uzumaki Naruto, Sasuke commanded, desperate for some information on his teammate and the others. The rookies gave him weird looks, but Naruto glared at Sasuke, who glared back. Finally, I get to see just how powerful you really are, Naruto. Kabuto smirked, you already know the names, which makes it less fun. Looking at his cards he began reading, Sabaku no Gaara, his team has completed 8 C rank and WoW AB rank. It says he's come back from each of them without a scratch. A genin doing AB rank is highly unusual, but coming back from one without any injury is just unheard of. This caused all of them to tense up, even Naruto. Next is Rock Lee, Konoha genin with a tremendous skill in taijutsu. His skills in ninjutsu and genjutsu are nil. He is a member of Team 9 led by Mitogai as his sensei. His teammates are Hyuga Neji and Higurashi Tenten. He has completed 42 D ranks and 37 C ranks. He has been a genin for a year more than you guys. Next is Uzumaki Naruto, he said, pulling another card. Though he blinked in surprise when it suddenly disappeared from his hands. Looking up, he saw Naruto holding the card between 2 fingers. Sasuke growled and went to snatch the card from him, but Naruto playfully put it out of reach, though there was a dangerous glint in his eyes. Sorry Sasuke, Kabuto-san, but I don't like my cards to be displayed until the end of the game. He clapped the card between his hands and when he separated them, only small pieces of the card fell out. His eyes then narrowed as he looked at Kabuto, you really shouldn't give out information like that, Kabuto-san. It may come to bite you back one day. On the inside, he was trying to figure Kabuto out. Just who is this guy? Getting information on Lee wouldn't be so hard, but how did he acquire the mission stats of a foreign nin, who is also a Jinchuriki, when they can only be accessed by the Kazekage and his council? It's obvious that he knows way too much to be a genin. And why am I getting the feeling of snakes from this guy? I have to inform Gigi of this somehow. That type of information opens up the possibility that he is a spy. Kabuto held his hands up in surrender, I meant no harm Naruto-kun. I just like to gather information is all. Naruto didn't look convinced but gave it a rest. Kabuto thought, guess I won't be making his job any harder. His master would be so disappointed. Naruto's senses spiked and he caught a movement in the corner of his eyes. He saw a ninja with a headband having a musical note flying through the air, throwing 2 kunai into the floor in front of Kabuto, who jumped back just in time for another one with the same headband, but had his head covered in bandages, to appear in front of him and taking a swing at Kabuto. Kabuto dodged, smirking, but his glasses suddenly shattered and he collapsed onto his knees, throwing up. 3 nin, 2 boys and 1 girl, stood in front of Kabuto, radiating killing intent. Pathetic. The bandaged one scoffed. Aren't you supposed to be a 4-year-old veteran? Meanwhile, Naruto was trying to figure out what just happened. If nothing hit Kabuto, why did his glasses shatter and why the hell did he throw up? Was it pressurized air? Kurama scowled and spoke from within, think Naruto. What is the symbol on his high-tie 8? Naruto frowned, it's a musical note. Kurama prompted him further, music is a form of sound, and how does sound travel? Naruto replied, through the medium of air. Oh, he smirked. He manipulated the sound waves to target the ear and throw off his balance. He shook his head, foolish guy. He just gave away his main attack. Naruto turned to see the spiky-haired ninja talking, write this down on your cards. 3 Otogakure ninjas, definite future Chunin. An explosion of smoke went down in front of the class and a voice was heard. When the smoke cleared, there was a large man wearing a black trench coat, black fingerless gloves and a bandana was standing. His intimidating stature and harsh tone that followed ensured that his words were heeded quickly. That is Morino Ibiki, if I'm not wrong. Konoha's top interrogator alongside Yamanaka Inoiki and Anko Sensei's superior, Naruto speculated. All right you maggots. Shut the hell up and sit down in your assigned seats. The first part of the exam will begin now. Any fighting will lead straight to disqualification. Pointing to the Otogakure ninjas, he said, you better stop doing that if you don't want to fail before even the exam starts. He watched as everyone went to their assigned seats. Once everyone was settled, he began explaining the exam. This is an exam in which you start off with 10 points. There are 2 rules to this exam. The first rule, this is a team test. Whether you pass or not will be determined by the combined score of your teammates. Second rule, anyone caught doing any sneaky activities, namely cheating, he smiled in a sinister way that sent shivers down many people's spines, will have 2 points taken off for every offense. You have 45 minutes. Begin. The sound of papers turning sounded for a brief moment. Naruto first inspected where his teammates were seated. To his disappointment, they were seated quite far. Turning his eyes on the test, he raised an eyebrow in disbelief. What type of questions are these? They are no genin level, that's for sure. Which means they want the genin to cheat. This exam is testing our information gathering. He gave an impressed smirk at that, but then frowned. I may have photographic memory, but it defeats the whole purpose of this test if I write what I know. What to do now? He scanned the room, looking for someone who was confidently filling out the answers at a high speed. He smirked when he saw one sitting in the column to his left, 2 rows above him. Got him. Now I just have to figure out how to learn his answers, or maybe, I can just switch our tests. He pondered for over 2 minutes on what to do, watching his peers cheat. Sasuke was copying answers with his Sharingan, Sakura was writing on her own since she knew the answers, Tenten had cleverly altered the ceiling flap to reflect someone's answers. Hinata was using her Byakugan, Shino was using his bugs to cheat, Kiba had a Kamaru on top of his head, barking his answers to him. Shikamaru did not need to cheat, as he was already smart enough. Got it. First, he would have to scope out the field. He spent the next 5 minutes watching the invigilators walk, trying to find a pattern. Finally, he found a loophole. There were 4 columns of students, with all the columns separated. The first invigilator between the first 2 columns walked with the invigilator between the last 2. Abiki walked in the center of the second and third columns, but he always moved opposite to the other 2 invigilators. So, there was a point where all 3 of them were in a row and then they went in the opposite direction of each other. There was a 3-second interval during which none of them were facing him. After that interval, the 3 of them would face the class from the respective ends. Which means, he had 3 seconds to make his plan work. Second, know the number of the desk from which he was going to cheat. The test paper didn't have a space to write the names, but a space where they had to write the desk number. So, he deduced that teams will be identified from the number of the desk they were sitting on. Every team had been given specific seats according to the seating plan next to the board. So when Abiki comes across the papers from the desk numbers 8, 21 and 27, he would know he was looking at the papers of Team 7 according to the seating plan. Now that he knew what he needed to know, it was time to act. Counting from now, he discreetly pulled out 2 smoke bombs during the first interval under the pretense of scratching his back. Maybe it was a bit overkill, but he needed to remain unseen. He waited till the guy was finished writing. 5th interval was when shit hit the fan. As soon as the back of the invigilators were turned to him, he wasted no time and threw the smoke bombs onto the floor, one on the right and one on the left. Roars of anger and panic could be heard throughout the classroom as no one could see their tests. Windows were opened to let the smoke out and once it was cleared, several of them looked confused as nothing had happened to their tests. Naruto, however, was calmly pretending to keep writing on the sheet on which answers were already filled out. The guy whose sheet he stole had a panicked look on his face when he saw that the sheet in front of him had all the wrong answers written down. There was even a mocking note that said better luck next time. The worst thing was that the sheet in front of him had his desk number written on it. There wasn't enough time to erase and write the correct answers all over again. Yeah, Naruto was not above such petty things from time to time. Naruto calmly erased the desk number on the sheet he stole and wrote his own down. What had happened was when the smoke spread, Naruto had quickly created a shadow clone that had instantly transformed into a finger-sized version of himself. The clone had taken a hold of his sheet and substituted with the sheet of the guy Naruto had decided to cheat from. By the time smoke cleared, Naruto had already finished his job. Abiki was slightly irritated at the ruckus caused. He held his hand up for silence. Anyone who has lost their sheet might as well get out with your team. Surprisingly, none of them moved to get up. Abiki deduced that whoever had done that was only looking out for himself. Though I'm interested in learning just who exactly did that, he thought as his eyes swept around the room. His eyes looked at Naruto, who was simply leaned back in his chair, eyes up at the ceiling and an uncaring look on his face. His eyes narrowed the tiniest bit in suspicion. Naruto was well known for his successful pranks all around the village. Uzumaki Naruto, he doesn't look bothered in the least. He could be the one, his face etched back into his neutral expression, then again, he hasn't looked the least bit bothered since the beginning of this test. And just like that, he lifted his suspicion off Naruto, continuing to watch the class closely. Uzumaki Pranking Code of Conduct, Rule 2, in the aftermath of a prank, throw suspicion off yourself in any way possible. At the end of 45 minutes, Ibiki looked at the clock on the wall and nodded to himself. He turned his head to the open door, through which Kakuro, who had gone through the bathroom, entered. Was your doll playing any beneficial? He asked, smirking. The puppet user flinched, surprised he had been caught. Go sit down, he ordered Kankuro. After he was seated, Ibiki started emitting a sadistic aura. Time up. You now have a choice presented to you, to either take the 10th question, or not to take it, he stated, much to the confusion of the genin. Choose. A familiar voice shouted from the back. Naruto turned to see Temari, whose eyes displayed confused anger. What happens if we choose not to? At that point, Naruto simply stopped caring what Ibiki said. He just kept watching Temari, a small, dreamy smile on his face. Temari caught his gaze and blushed, averting her face and trying to quell the growing blush. Why is he staring at me like that? Ibiki chuckled darkly, if you choose not to, your points will be reduced to 0. You'll be failed along with your teammate. Everyone started to shout in protest, but a sudden bout of killing intent from Ibiki silenced them. Also, if you choose to take it and answer incorrectly, you will lose the right to ever participate in the future Chunin exams. Kiba hollered in anger, what kind of a rule is that? Genin from before was still able to retake the Chunin exams, so why is this exam any different? Ibiki released another dark chuckle, the one gave out when he was being extremely sadistic, the other genin didn't have me as the proctor. My test, my rules. Choose, I haven't got all day. Naruto observed that Ibiki had all the genin quivering now. He waited until several teams had quit to make his move. Lesser the competition, the better their chances, after all. Giving a wink to Temari, whose blush darkened to cover her entire face, he turned around and stood up, all the playfulness from earlier when he was flirting with Temari vanishing from his face. Ibiki stared at the blonde, along with all the others, whose face was set in dead seriousness. His eyelids were half drooped, but he still looked entirely serious. I don't care what happens at all. I have a dream of becoming the Hokage that no one can stop me from achieving. I'll do it even if I have to stay a genin to do so. Do your worst, but know this, he pointed a finger at Ibiki without any fear, rank means nothing to me, at all. Everyone was watching Naruto with disbelief, who never once broke eye contact with Ibiki. Ibiki himself was thrown off by the sheer conviction displayed in the voice and eyes of a 12-year-old. Sakura was in awe of Naruto's declaration. Sasuke gave a sigh of relief, for he thought Naruto was going to quit. Each of the rookies, except for one or two, held a newfound respect for Naruto. The whole room was silent, and everyone that remained had caught every word. And the results were staggering. Ibiki smirked, hey, he's interesting. He wiped out everyone's uncertainty. Looking around the room, he counted how many were remaining. 57, huh. There are more left than I expected. There's no point in waiting anymore. Congratulations, you all pass. Ibiki declared, and hid to fight the smile that threatened to appear on his face at the bafflement of as well as the disbelief of the genin. But what about the 10th question? A genin from Am demanded to know. That was the 10th question. It was a question to test your will and fortitude. As a Chunin, you'll be forced to take tough decisions, and no one needs weak-willed Chunin leading their forces to their deaths. By asking this question, you've shown me your determination and willingness to do the best for your villages, even with handicaps, he explained. Temari spoke once again, so the other questions were for nothing. And once again, she blushed when Naruto turned to stare at her with a smile. No, the test was for info gathering, and to see how much balls you all had, he answered, looking in the direction of Naruto, who turned back and gave a graceful shrug. This marks the end of the first phase of the Chunin selection exams. I wish you luck for the next phase, Abiki smiled, which was surprisingly pleasant and not all that disturbing. Before he could say anything else, he caught something from the corner of his eyes and stepped back just in time for a ball of cloth to come crashing through the window. Two kunai flew out of the cloth and stuck to the ceiling, unfurling the cloth, revealing a very familiar purple-haired woman wearing a brown trench coat. On the cloth it was written, Second Exam Proctor Mitarashi Anko. You guys. This is no time to be happy. She exclaimed. I am the proctor for the second test, Mitarashi Anko. The real exam starts now. Are you ready? She shouted and pumped her fist into the air. Abiki came from behind the cloth. Grasp the atmosphere, will you? Anko blushed at his deadpan. Naruto simply sat down and crossed his arms, fondly smiling at her. It had been a while since he saw his sensei and to be honest, he missed her eccentricities. Anko counted the number of genin left and raised an eyebrow. 57. Abiki, you let 19 team pass. You let him off too easy. She scoffed. Abiki shrugged. This time, we have quite an interesting bunch. Anko scoffed and was about to snark back when a familiar mop of blonde hair caught her eye. She smiled proudly when she saw Naruto sitting in the room, fondly smiling at her. As soon as she made eye contact, that smile turned into a smirk and he winked at her. Anko grinned savagely, now that she knew that her best and only student was in the exams. You may be right, Abiki, she said. However, I'll cut those numbers in half in the second test. That, coupled with her savage grin, was enough to make everyone sweat a little. Naruto just shook his head, his sensei was as intimidating as ever. I will explain the details tomorrow. We will go to another place, so ask your Jonin sensei about where to go and the time. That is all. Dismissed. Everyone stood up to leave, while Anko just smirked and walked in the direction of her former student. Naruto stood up as well, standing just 4 inches short of Anko's height. He waved his teammates away, who were looking curiously, telling them he will catch up later. What's up, brat? I didn't know that you were going to be in this exam. Naruto shrugged, putting his hands in his pockets. Even we didn't know until only a week ago, Anko-sensei. Abiki raised an eyebrow, coming to stand with him, sensei. So this is the brat Hokage-sama assigned to you. Naruto smiled, his whites showing. Uzumaki Naruto, pleased to meet you. Anko-sensei talked about you occasionally, Abiki-san. You really did frighten all the genin to death. Abiki smirked while Anko scoffed. If he really had, there wouldn't be 19 teams left. Abiki jerked a thumb towards Naruto. You should thank him for that. Brat gave a speech that wiped all the fear I put into them. Anko puffed up proudly, never minding Abiki's failure. Of course he did. He is my student after all. He was born to be a leader. Naruto smiled, but turned serious, though I do have a concern to raise. His serious tone was enough to catch their attention. What is it, Naruto? Anko asked with a frown. Naruto said, it about a genin named Yakushi Kabuto. He seemed to have some sort of information cards that had info, mainly the mission stats and their strengths and weaknesses, on all the genin present. I can believe it if he only had info on the genin of Konoha, but he also had it on the Chunin, Gaara. Something that should only be known by the Hokage and his council. He explained all his observations and conclusions to them. Abiki and Anko paid serious attention to this, and by the end of his explanation, both were frowning heavily. This is not good, Anko commented. Abiki nodded, a hard look on his face. If what you say is true, we might have a spy in our midst. And having information like that means he has likely been a spy for years. Who knows what kind of information he has now? Naruto frowned, even I'm not that sure. As I said, my own observations led me to this conclusion. Regardless of whether he is a spy or not, such matters have to be investigated for that sort of possibility, don't they? Anko nodded, that is true. This matter will be taken to the Hokage immediately, by Abiki. Abiki turned on Anko, an incredulous look on his face. You can't order your superior, you know that right? Anko shrugged, putting an arm around Naruto's shoulders, not caring in the least that his face was right next to her assets. I know, but in the light that my student is in the Chunin exams, it is his duty to treat me to dango. Let's go, brat. She started walking, not letting go of Naruto, who was struggling to get out of her embrace. Abiki smiled and shook his head, muttering, just this time, I'll let this go. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.